Hello and welcome to this video about Cardano. Today I want to talk about something that excites me quite a lot actually. It's a very interesting thought and I want to give you that. I want to share with you my thinking and want to give you a little bit of food for thought because it is something very, actually very exciting for everybody who's in the crypto space, I think. But I don't necessarily believe it will happen, but it's certainly a possibility that every crypto investor should be aware of, because it is something that could, it could actually change everyone's life. So that is very interesting and it's important to be aware of. And because of what I believe or what I want to talk about today, I think it's very important to hold cryptocurrencies in the long run because it is very difficult to time the market. And today I want to talk about this topic, and please bear in mind before I start, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, and you should always do your own research before investing. So this is really interesting. What I want to talk about today is this time different? So everybody pretty much believes, or many people in the crypto space believe, that end of this year or early next year, the bear market will happen, because it happens pretty much every 4 years in the Bitcoin cycle. And we can clearly see that on the stock to flow model, which predicts every 4 years. And we've seen that in the past, every 4 years, there is a dip. And now we are here on the 8th of August. And if we just replicate what happened before, we will most likely go beyond $100,000 in this period here. Because it generally in the past, it always has, it always did overshoot that, that line here, that prediction line here, which is for this year at around 100,000, or actually at 85,000. So we've actually always gone quite a bit above it. So if we believe that will be the case, we should see at least prices of $100,000. That is what I believe happens for Bitcoin this year, at least. But if we can see how much we've actually been above it in the past, I mean, look, in the last bull market, the price was actually at $6,000, and we've actually ended with the all-time high of, I think it was around, in the end, around $20,000, just below 20,000. So it has actually overshot it quite a bit. And what Plan B actually said, the inventor of the stock to flow model, he actually said minimum he expects 129, I think, and it could go up to 400,000, or even I think slightly above 400,000. So that would be quite amazing. But I don't really want to talk too much about the stock to flow model today. I want to talk about what this could mean for ADA and why I believe this time could be different. So I want to split it in two different topics. So one is why I believe a Cardano price of $15 could actually be possible this year. And the other one is why there could be a possibility that there will not be a bear market, but that we could enter a Bitcoin and also Cardano super cycle. So first things first, let's talk about the possibility of Cardano actually hitting $15 or even more this year. And before we start with that, I said in other videos that I believe the price will be at around $4.50 at the end of the year. And that, I always said, is a conservative approach from my point of view. Optimistically, I said around $5, maybe even 10 could be possible in the short term before we enter the bear market. But I actually thought about this a little bit more and just want to share with you this possibility. So if we just look at what happened in the past, and this is the last Bitcoin peak, and that was just below 20,000. So for sake of simplicity, let's just use 20,000. And the last time in the 2018 bull market of Cardano, we had a maximum price of pretty much 140. Again, for simplicity, we just use 140. So if I take the Bitcoin to Cardano ratio back in the day and take a look at what this could mean for what could happen then if Bitcoin achieves 100,000 this year with the same ratio that we had back then, it would mean that with $100,000, Bitcoin, Cardano would achieve with $100,000, which is totally realistic if we look at the stock to flow model, which predicted the Bitcoin price in the past pretty accurately, then the Cardano price would get up to $7 this year. But as Plan B said, 100,000 is the minimum. I think he even said 120 is the minimum, and the maximum is 400,000. So if we, just from an optimistic point of view, expect a 400,000 maximum for Bitcoin this year, this would mean with the same ratio that the Cardano price could actually be well above $15, but it could actually get up to $28. And that is why I believe everybody needs to be aware of that. Actually, a $4.50 to $5 prediction is quite conservative. I'm a strong believer of the stock to flow model, and it's not just something that is made up. It is something that is based on statistics, and on mathematics. And the stock to flow model is not only used for Bitcoin. It's not something that someone came up with for just Bitcoin. It is something that is used for other commodities as well, and it's actually a well-proven model. But for Bitcoin, it works pretty well, and you can see that here pretty well. So yeah, I from an optimistic point of view, 400,000 should actually be possible if we look at what was achieved before. It is certainly something that we could see at a peak this year, 400,000 for Bitcoin, which would then, with the same ratio, if we assume that it is still the same ratio this year, we should see prices of up to $28 for Cardano. And we can also assume that because Cardano has actually progressed, there is now a real use case that, there was always a use case, but this year smart contracts will be launched. So the price could even go up further, because in the end, the value of Cardano has gone up purely because it's not only limited by, the amount of ADA, but it's actually the real use case, more partnerships and everything. And, people talking about it being an Ethereum killer and, things like that. Now, the other thing is actually that we need to be aware of is that there does not necessarily need to be another bear market. There doesn't necessarily need to be another bear market like that. It could actually be that this time is different, and that we enter a Bitcoin bull cycle, which could also then lead consequently to a Cardano bull cycle, because the Cardano price is eventually tied to the Bitcoin price. Still, it will decouple itself at a certain point in time, but not yet. And if we enter a Bitcoin bull cycle, things will be quite different. A Bitcoin bull cycle in the end means that it will be a cycle which is entirely different from what we had before. So we would not see that peak and then a massive correction. We could actually see a peak, which, a peak with maybe a small correction, and it could go up further. Maybe we even end up somewhere at 500, 600,000, and maybe we don't enter a bear market next year. That is a possibility. That also Plan B confirmed is a possibility, even though he does not believe in it. But someone who believes in it is Dan Held, who is actually quite popular in the crypto space. I believe he's got a YouTube channel as well, and he's written that article which actually came out earlier this year about talking about the Bitcoin super cycle. And he is the director, I think, of global or growth marketing at Kraken, the cryptocurrency exchange. And he's quite a bit of experience in the cryptocurrency space, and he's also engaged with other companies. What he basically says is that never before has Bitcoin had such a strong fundamentals against a macro backdrop that highlights exactly why Bitcoin is needed. The narrative is singular, and the ability for global value to flow into Bitcoin has never been easier through the rise of institutional adoption. This Bitcoin cycle is different. Bitcoin was made for this moment. It certainly won't be going to just 100k or 300k. It could blast past that or have a more mild bear market. In other words, a super cycle. And he says that is the case because of all the things that are currently happening in the world, all the money printing and the inflation coming up as well. At the moment, people are just starting to spend money again after all what happened last year and this year as well. So people are just starting to spend money. And if all that money actually hits the market, we will see inflation, and people will realize that money will lose its value, and people will try to find alternative ways of investing. And Bitcoin then might be a possibility. And because of that, he says, and there are other reasons as well, I will link that article in the description, but he says we could actually see a Bitcoin bull cycle. He's not the only person who's talked about Bitcoin, sorry, not bull cycle, but super cycle. He's not the only person who talked about a Bitcoin super cycle. But if a Bitcoin super cycle happens, we could even see prices of ADA or Cardano going, further up. And, that can only happen. That can only happen if we, from that point of view, we could, prices of $28, $30, as I just said, are not unrealistic. That, of course, can only happen if a lot of money flows into the cryptocurrency space. Well, and that can happen if people are panicking, if people realize that inflation is going up, and so on and so on. So it is certainly a possibility, but it is so difficult to predict. And personally, I don't believe it will happen. I still think the stock-to-flow model will work. I don't think we will enter a super cycle, but what I want to do with this video is just to make you a bit sensitive to these things, and it could happen. It is a possibility, and because of that, I believe, which is what I'm doing, I'm holding it for the long term, because it is so hard to time the market. You never know when there is a peak. If you for example sell at the potential peak and then the prices go up 2x from that, you will be very you might get FOMO and then go in again and then lose money and things like that. So that is why I do dollar cost averaging, which has always worked for me. But the possibility of a super cycle is certainly there. Let me know what you think of potential prices of Cardano $28. I don't think why it should not be possible if Bitcoin really goes to 400,000 and Cardano will then follow with the same ratio as 2018. I don't see why it wouldn't be possible. I think it's very optimistic that Bitcoin will hit 400,000, but many things have changed since then. There's a lot of money printing going on and more institutions are entering the market as well. So it is certainly a possibility, and I'm very bullish on Bitcoin and Cardano and crypto anyway. So yeah, it is something that excites me, even though I try to be on the ground, and I try to believe that I actually believe it won't happen, because I think people are greedy. The markets are flexible, markets will work, people will try to sell at an all-time high. There will probably be a bad news about maybe another country trying to ban Bitcoin, or maybe a big hack of an exchange, which might then trigger the next bear market. There will always be a trigger point, and depending on when that is, the prices will go down and we might enter the next bear market. That is what I believe what will happen, but I just want to mention the other possibility exists as well. So hopefully you liked that video. If you did, please smash the like button. And if you want to follow me on this crypto journey, then please subscribe. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.